it's outside of the tournament, but it is, I guess, Michigan State and just college sports related. I wanted to get into this because it kind of became a conversation today. Transfer portal has been open for, I think, a couple of weeks at this point. I think it was open in the week going into the Sweet 16. I could be wrong about that. And today, Michigan State, unfortunately, has lost at least 2 players so far. Xavier Booker was one, whom, okay, he didn't play a single minute during the March Madness tournament, which basically told me what Izzo thinks of him truly, which is that he's just not very good and a very disappointing player. He's a 5-star recruit. I think a lot of people thought he was going to be, essentially one of these Zach Edey type players. He never really developed a good shot from deep. He never really embraced his role as someone who can just drive to the basket and be a rim protector. So he's going to be out. Okay. The one that surprised me genuinely was Trey Holloman. Trey Holloman, who seemed to have that Spartan dog mentality, who really seemed to, he had been at Michigan State for, at this point, I think 3 years. I believe he's a junior. So I was surprised by that. But not to be overtaken, I guess. Trey Donaldson out in Michigan, he also enters the portal. And then I'm like, wait, what? First of all, it's weird there's 2 Treys. It's kind of odd. But secondly, these are 2 guys who helped each of their respective teams go on tournament runs, help both of these teams win the Big Ten in the regular season and the tournament respectively. You can't say that it's not a culture thing. I mean, clearly, Trey Holloman, at least, I can't exactly speak to Donaldson, but clearly, Trey Holloman loved Michigan State, loved playing for Tom Izzo, never seemed like he was, selfish with the basketball. I mean, he went from starter to bench guy because Jace Richardson emerged, and he had no problem, seemingly. And yet, off he goes, seemingly. I mean, there's nothing stopping him from coming back, but this whole transferring, NIL, all this stuff, I know it's not news, but this is just absurd. Okay, like it's one thing to say, all right, the players are making the schools a lot of money. They should be allowed to be in a car commercial, or they should be allowed to get money based on their likeness being used in NCAA football, or they should be able to sell their in-game shoes or in-game worn jerseys or signed gear. They can go to, I don't know, you can go to the local Wendy's and sign hats for people for, $10 a pop. I don't know. It's one thing to say that guys can do that. It's another thing that basically at the end of every year, any given player, whether he's a starter, in the case of I believe Donaldson was a starter. Holloman was not a starter. I could be wrong about that. Michigan fan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Or, you can. I don't even remember where I was going with this. Whether you're a starter or you're a bench guy, you're going to be like, well, I like $1 million, please. What happened to this just being, it's just for, the superstar player. It's just for Reggie White. It's just for, I was going to say Victor Wembanyama, but he never played in college. It's just for Devin Booker. It's just for Kevin Durant. Those kind of players in college that obviously are, their jerseys are being sold, not necessarily with the name on it, but maybe, whatever. It's one thing if it's that. But look, no disrespect to Trey Holloman. I love Trey. He's not even an NBA player. Okay, he'd probably be a G League player if he just left in the draft right now. Okay, that's just purely from the size aspect. He's just not tall enough to play in the NBA. Furthermore, how can we say that now if you are just a solid guard, like a good player, coming off the bench, that basically, regardless of, all of the emotion, clearly that was there, all of the, recruitment that was there from Izzo's standpoint to find Holloman and bring him in, regardless of all of that, you don't pay me, I'm gone. I know that loyalty is not seen in a lot of ways as a virtue in the modern world, especially in sports, as it once was. But doesn't this just look like total scumbaggery? Like if Trey Holloman goes to, I don't know, let's just throw out a university. If Trey Holloman goes to be a starting guard at Northwestern, I don't know, as the first school that came to mind. Is he really going to help his resume? I mean, the most recent example I think of was AJ Hogard. Okay. AJ Hogard had bright spots at certain points, but overall he wasn't very good. He transferred to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt didn't do anything this year. All right, Vanderbilt made the tournament and lost. That was Vanderbilt's tournament experience. But yet, this player, AJ Hogard, seems to believe that he is far better than he actually is. And again, no disrespect to Trey, but he is simply not a $1 million player. If he was Cooper Flagg, if he was Janai Broom, if he was, Devin Booker, if he was any of these, if he was Zion Williamson back in the day, or even heck, if he was Cassius Winston, all right, then maybe we can have a conversation about, okay, we're going to sign you to this contract, or we're going to give you, a promotion where you make this money. That's the other thing. It's not a contract exactly. It's basically a handshake deal where, oh, sure, yeah, I'll be committed to your university. And then as soon as the season ends, it's like, yeah, actually, I'd like a 5x raise. So that $1 million is going to have to be $5 million. Like, it's just ridiculous. It's one thing, again, if you are one of these all-time greats, a guy that you could see, winning Big Ten or ACC or College Player of the Year, whatever the case may be. It's one thing if it's that. But it's not that largely. I mean, every year you see guys, you're like, wait, why is he entering the portal? Like, I remember just last year or a couple of years ago at Michigan State, Noah Kim, the quarterback for Michigan State, enters the portal. Where the hell does Noah Kim think he's going to go play quarterback and be good? like he's either just going to go to a smaller university where his degree is, I mean, not that the degree really is doing much for them anyway, but he's going to a smaller, less prestigious university, and he's going to be playing football for a worse team. He's like, I understand that these guys are like, look, I don't know if I'm going to play pro. Most of them probably know that they're not going to play pro. I need to make the most amount of money that I can get. I totally understand where they're coming from. I get that perspective 100%. But the fact that the team basically is held hostage and has to pay up to whatever ridiculous demands these players hold is absurd. We wouldn't hold our own pro leagues to this standard. Like, if next year, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions just said, you know what, actually, I know I'm getting paid however many millions he's getting paid. I'd actually like twice as much. And if you don't pay me that, I'm going to leave in free agency. It's like, that's not how this works. You sign a contract. We get you for a certain amount of time. And then, when the contract ends, we'll talk about it. And with college, there is no such thing. There is no backing for the organization, for the university to say, okay, we're going to give you this much money. And because we're giving you this much money, you're going to stick around for 1, 2, 3, even 4 years. Okay? Like, I don't think that's too much to ask. If you want to, be paid like professionals, if you want to, have guarantees like professionals, well, then you gotta live in the real world and not just say, okay, I want $1 million because because that's what I want. It's like, yeah, I want $1 million too, but unfortunately, if I went to my manager and said, hey, pay me $1 million or else I'm leaving. See ya. There you go. I'm out. Like, and I think a lot of these schools probably feel the same way about a lot of these players, and they get stuck in this endless void of, I need to go to this other school because they will pay me because they're desperate, or they don't care. Like, they're just going to spend money to spend money. The whole thing is just getting ridiculous. And not that it wasn't already ridiculous, but it's especially ridiculous when you really see the reality of it, I guess. Who knows whether Cohen Carr is going to stick around? Who knows whether Jace Richardson is going to stick around? Not that he would transfer, but that he might, commit for the draft. Year to year, you're just not going to know what your team is going to look like. And I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't think that is going to be a sustainable metric for these sports. Because at a certain point, people are just going to start turning off. They're just going to say, I don't know who any of these guys are, so short of them being really amazing and good, short of it being, Auburn or Duke at number 1 seed, like one of the best teams in the country, people just really aren't going to watch. And, there's only so many of those best teams in the country. Most teams are not all that good. And you might have, Steph Curry at Davidson, and that's the only reason you watch your Davidson basketball. Or, if it's Michigan State, it's, you might not win a national title, but you like watching Tyson Walker, or you like watching Cassius Winston, or you like watching, I was going to say Aaron Henry, but that I actually didn't really like watching Aaron Henry that much. That was actually a darker time for Michigan State. But either way, that's pretty much my rant. That's what I had to say. I'm curious what people think. Do they like I can't imagine people really like this situation. But, if you do, I'd be curious to hear what you like. Why? It just doesn't make much sense to me. And maybe I'm just being an old man, which is entirely possible. I'm only 25, but I got the mind and the heart of a 75-year-old man. So, hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.